Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and US President Donald Trump spoke to each other on a phone call. Now, this is the fifth telephonic conversation between the two leaders after US President Donald Trump returned to the White House in January this year. The two leaders reviewed progress in India-U.S. comprehensive global strategic partnership. They also exchanged views on expanding cooperation in trade, critical technologies, energy, defense and security. Both leaders agreed to work closely to address shared challenges and advise common interest. Prime Minister Modi took to X to inform about the phone call. He said, and I quote here, "had a very warm and engaging conversation with President Trump. We reviewed the progress in our bilateral relations and discussed regional and international developments. India and the United States will continue to work together for global peace, stability and prosperity." The phone call comes amidst a crucial moment in bilateral relations. Now, negotiations for a trade deal between New Delhi and Washington are currently underway. A U.S. delegation led by Deputy Trade Representative Rick Switzer is already in India for trade talks. During the call, both Prime Minister Modi and President Trump underlined the importance of sustaining momentum in shared efforts to enhance bilateral trade. The talks between PM Modi and President Trump comes just a week after Russian President Vladimir Putin visited New Delhi for 23rd annual India-Russia summit, boosting New Delhi's special and privileged strategic partnership with Moscow. During Putin's visit, both sides signed a series of agreements for increasing bilateral trade and partnerships in nuclear energy, labor mobility, defense and security. New Delhi has been walking a diplomatic tightrope ever since the US imposed a 25% additional tariff on India for buying Russian oil. Washington has repeatedly urged New Delhi to cut off its Russian oil purchases. Importing Russian crude has put India in a geopolitical bind and soured relationships with the US, disagreements over US dairy and agricultural imports that have also delayed the conclusion of a bilateral trade deal, further straining India-US relations. Union Minister Piyush Goyal has said that the ongoing trade talks between Indian and US officials are progressing well. However, the minister has ruled out any deadline for signing a deal. The phone call between the two leaders underlines the resilience of the larger India-US relationship. It is also an affirmation that New Delhi will continue to maintain its strategic autonomy and balance its relationships with Washington as well as Moscow. WION correspondent Susan Tehrani tells us about the significance of this call. Take a look.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and U.S. President Donald Trump held their third telephone call since the United States doubled tariffs on Indian exports to about 50%, a move that has strained ties. Modi described the call as being warm and engaging as they discussed bilateral relations, global issues, and also continued cooperation. The talks come as India seeks relief from those steep U.S. tariffs that hit key exports, and as the U.S. has sent a delegation to New Delhi to negotiate trade issues. At a hearing of the U.S. Senate Appropriation Committee on Wednesday, U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer said that India remains a, quote, tough nut to crack in negotiations, but added that Washington has received a, quote unquote, the best offer ever from New Delhi. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.